Tommy Tuberville has been getting a lot of attention this week for some comments he made about white nationalists. But we cannot just focus on what he's saying. We need to pay attention to what this lawmaker is doing. Tuberville is blocking hundreds of military appointments and promotions and trying to make it harder for service members to access abortions. Today, President Biden himself blasted the Alabama Republican, calling the move totally irresponsible and saying it is jeopardizing U.S. security. Back with us tonight to discuss, Jason Johnson, a politics and journalism professor at Morgan State University and an MSNBC political contributor. And Stuart Stevens is here, a veteran of the Mitt Romney and George W. Bush presidential campaigns. He is now with the Lincoln Project, and his new book coming out this fall, The Conspiracy to End America, 5 Ways My Old Party is Driving Our Democracy to Autocracy, comes out in just a couple of months. Jason, to you first. Tuberville. He did speak to Defense Secretary Austin about this earlier today. But what did you think of this standoff? I mean, this morning he wasn't even sure if he had time today or this weekend.
I'm not shocked. This is what Republicans are. Tuberville is not a bright man. He supports racists, which basically means that he is one. I don't believe in any individual who will say that they don't know what white nationalism is and you live in Alabama. And at the same time, you were asked if having white nationalists in the military was a problem, and then you go about trying to undermine our American military. In any other circumstance, he would just be seen as a treasonous idiot. I don't know why we're considering anything he does to have legitimacy other than the fact that you have a bunch of other cowards within his organization that are not really holding him accountable. I'm glad that President Biden called him out, but at the end of the day, unless you have leadership in the Republican organization and the White House call for serious reform throughout how we go through these nominations and how we go through these appointments, you're going to have crackpot maniac racists like this undermining our government. And he'll be the first person to say, if anything ever happens to U.S. soldiers abroad or any other part of the world, he'll be the first person to say that we've weakened our military and we're not as tough as we used to be. But he's the reason that we don't have the head of the maritime courts and the Joint Chiefs of Staff because of people like him.
Okay, and that's the point I want to focus on. Because we could call him a nitwit, a dope, stupid, anything all day long and tomorrow. But there's real consequences, Stuart, around what he's doing and doing to our military. Can you explain this?
Well, look, there's this bizarre thing that has happened where the Republican Party has become the anti-law enforcement party. They're actually out there talking about defunding the FBI. They're on the side of Putin for the most part. I mean, the two leading candidates for president nomination, Trump and DeSantis, both agree with Putin that what's the genocide in Ukraine is a territorial dispute, and they'll cut off aid to Ukraine. They want to. They're attacking the Justice Department. It's really a pattern of this sort of lawlessness that they've adopted. And when I ask you, if there was a large criminal organization in Washington, how would they act differently? They would attack law enforcement. They'd attack the Justice Department. They'd attack the judicial system as part of what they've attacked against Trump. Not just that they don't agree with this indictment, it's an entire attack on the basic infrastructure of law and order and civil society in America. And that's what the Republican Party is doing. And there are people in the Republican Party that don't agree, and some of them are in Congress. But I think, as Jason said, they're cowards and they won't speak up.
Civil society in America doesn't just matter to Americans. We're on the world stage, and the rest of the world is watching. J.P. Morgan Chase's CEO, Jamie Dimon, just did an interview with The Economist, and he was asked about the rest of the world and their potential fear of Trump getting back in the White House. And I want you to watch his response.
I would worry about another Trump presidency, too, by the way. But I think there's always been an isolation element. It took a lot to get us to World War I. It took a lot to get us to World War II. But I think if you go to Washington, D.C., when it comes to Ukraine, it's been pretty tight. Republicans and Democrats. So when it was needed, it was there.
Stuart, what do you think about Jamie Dimon making these comments, right? He's not on TV just talking about the economy, not talking about banking. His name is popping up because a bunch of Wall Street heavy hitters want a guy like him, potentially him, to run. What do you think's going on here?
Look, what I don't understand about a lot of these business leaders like Jamie Dimon is they're in this system that has allowed them to prosper unimaginably well, right? This American system of free enterprise. Donald Trump is a direct attack upon this. Ron DeSantis is an attack upon this. He went after the happiness company. Why don't they stand up and say, no, this isn't in the American mainstream. This isn't good for our economy. It's not just enough to say, well, I'm worried about Donald Trump. You have to really take a leadership position. But otherwise, you're just sort of a bystander as this country slides into autocracy.
Jason, what do you think?
One, I think a lot of really wealthy men have decided that they want to pretend that they want this job. You know, Mark Cuban and the Starbucks. I mean, everybody's like, oh, hey, one rich guy got it. No. Donald Trump is an anomaly, and we've seen what that anomaly has done. The vast majority of people who are president of the United States and aspire to be president of the United States have spent their lives in service. And I'm not saying being a business person isn't important. We all love job creators, but that is not service. That is not negotiating with people. That is not developing the skills you actually need to run a country and operate in Congress. So I think that what he says is fine. I mean, I think any halfway intelligent American would say, hey, I don't think that the crazy guy who tried to overthrow the country with a violent coup is good for business. But I don't think anyone should be looking to anyone like that to be president. What we need is an aggressive, active president who is willing to combat internal seditionists. That's what we need right now. We don't need a business guy who's made their money by shifting cash around, because the reason that cash has been shifting around is why you've got so many people protesting throughout the country right now. So Jamie Dimon as a citizen, great. Jamie Dimon as a business person, I could care less.
All right, then. Jason Johnson, Stuart Stevens, always great to have you both here.